Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host as always. Joining me after the Chargers win 27-13 over the New Orleans Saints in the second preseason game is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Doing all right. That was definitely a preseason game. A bit more fireworks last week. Now, there was some stuff mixed in there this game as well, but it was definitely an uglier preseason game, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, the first half was not a great watch, unlike last week. But sometimes there's some ups and downs, which we can get into, things like that. But this is kind of the nature of the beast when you're playing with a lot of backups in there. There's just not a lot of rhythm, things like that. So hopefully next week is a little bit better there. Okay, before we get started into our big takeaways, have to give our friends over at Prize Picks a quick shout out. Obviously, football season is a few short weeks away from beginning in earnest. College football is right around the corner. The Chargers debut in Brazil is right around the corner. But in the meantime, the action on Prize Picks with baseball season is just heating up. Make sure and step up to the plate with Prize Picks and add your favorite baseball players to your lineup today, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Make your call with more or less and play for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. If you think Shohei Ohtani will get more than one home run this week, Juan Soto more than one hit, you can cook up that and several other hot takes with your friends and win real money this baseball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Make sure and download the app today. Use the code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app Prize Picks and use the code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, like Tyler mentioned, we're going to have some things to discuss in terms of just like the rockiness of the offense, but I think the right place to start with this is the way that the Chargers defense played today, and specifically with Mr. Caleb Murphy, who has continued to make plays on special teams and as a pass rusher. Another big day for him with 2 sacks, forced fumble, multiple special teams tackles. Tyler, so my question for you is he the Chargers' 4th edge rusher right now? Because it seems like we're trending that way, in my opinion, so far.
Yep, he has to be. He's going to be active over Kyle Kennard on game day, barring anything dramatically changing over the next couple of weeks. He's been their better player in camp. He's now been their better player in the preseason. Heck, he played today, which Kyle Kennard did not. So, for all the talk of what Kennard could do, and we were certainly fans of him, Caleb Murphy's the guy that has risen up. And, over the course of like the last month or so, it's been a nice story. Yeah, he can contribute on special teams. He's playing ahead of Kennard, but kind of felt like eventually Kennard takes that. He's the edge 4. You call it a day. But Murphy now with a game like this, with the multiple sacks, something last week on special teams, something this week on defense, it's undeniable that he should be the edge 4 right now over Kyle Kennard. So can Kyle Kennard be better throughout the course of a season? Sure. But right now it's Caleb Murphy, and with 2 games to go, it should be Murphy. I don't think they're going to cut one of these guys. I think they're just going to keep the 5, which makes things very tricky. But it is, once again, another former Titans defensive player succeeding with the Chargers.
Yeah, I kind of tend to forget that Jesse Minter has this affinity with that group of Tennessee Titans defensive players. So, going back to last season, after the Chargers were dealing with the Joey Bosa injuries and things like that, they bring Caleb Murphy in, and right away he's playing on special teams. And it was like, well, why aren't they giving those opportunities to Tremont Morris-Brash? And it's because he's somebody that Ryan Ficken trusts on special teams. And so heading into this season, we kind of talked about maybe there's a chance that he's the special teams guy. Maybe he comes up off the practice squad and fills that role. Anything extra, I think, was going to be a big bonus for this team. And he's had multiple cross-chop reps in both of the games that really flash his ability as a technician. He can flatten a corner. He can obviously finish. I think in the Hall of Fame game, he was a little too connected with practice speed, or otherwise I think he would have finished with a sack in that one. But he gets 2 today, had a couple other run defense snaps. So he looks way better than he did last season as just like a pure pass rusher. The Saints weren't playing like their starters for the whole game, but they were playing the starting offensive line in the opening quarter when he had that forced fumble. So this is absolutely, for me, the place to start, because we can get to some of the other players, but this is a direct impact on the roster. This is going to be a guy who's going to be on the 53. He's going to be playing core special teams players. And we've kind of talked about Bud Dupree and his role. I think Caleb Murphy is showing that he can complement Bud Dupree, going forward.
Yeah, that's a great call there. And I'm glad we started with him, because there are definitely a number of defensive players and some offensive players we could talk about, but it's, which one of them is going to win the practice squad job or something.
Yeah.
Caleb Murphy, he has now put himself in the conversation of not just making the roster, but being ahead of Kyle Kennard. So good for him. This is what the preseason, these games is all about, because, generally speaking, we can kind of set things in, okay, like this draft pick, an early pick like Kennard, he's the fourth, you call it a day. You're not carrying 5 edge rushers. And suddenly, not only are they being forced to keep Murphy, but they're going to be forced to play him over Kennard. So it's just fun stuff. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, really happy for him. I think just solidifying, the Chargers' choices and bringing him in last season. And the back end of the roster, a lot of times we get so, focused on the UDFAs and focused on the rookies. We kind of forget about those players who are brought in and then kept around on like a futures contract. And Caleb Murphy is obviously, making the most of that second opportunity to get, back into the NFL. So deserves a big shout out today.
Yes, he does.
I think, do you want to do quarterback next, or do you want to do Eric Rodgers next?
Let's keep going with the defense, and then we'll get to quarterbacks.
Okay, sounds good. So, first of all, hope Eric Rodgers is okay. That did not look like a super great injury. It just looked like his leg got caught up on the turf, and hopefully he's able to kind of get back out here. But 2 interceptions today, a pick 6, a pass breakup. This is 2 weeks in a row where an undrafted free agent corner for the Chargers has like a massive day. Did you watch Rodgers when you were doing the UDFA watch? I know Alex Insdorf did, obviously, but
right.
Did you get a chance to watch him too?
I did not. Same as Nico Reed before camp and during this summer. This was like Benjamin St-Juste. This was Trey Bridges.
Fair.
This was Dean Leonard. We were discussing which of, the former or current, 7th round picks was going to make it. And so it was like, well, why would it end up being maybe one of these guys when they're so invested in these other guys and they play special teams? Whoops. Now, we'll see with Eric Rodgers, of course, but Nico Reed, Eric Rodgers, back-to-back weeks, like you said, great big plays for them, great breakout games from them.
Yeah, I don't know what's in the water with like the undrafted free agent corners right now, but
Jesse Minter, man.
Jesse Minter just is, he teaches these guys right, and Steve Klinkscott obviously deserves a big shout out there. But his break on the football, like the picture of him on the interception with the pick 6, like it was an amazing, incredible, break on the football. It just showed off a lot of speed there, a lot of instincts. And then even his second interception, I'll have to go back and watch, but that looked like a few of the interceptions that like Christian Fulton got last year, where he was playing cover 2 and then kind of like baited a quarterback into a poor decision. And if that was the case, I'm anxious to go see what the film watch there is. But for whatever reason, him and Nico Reed, undrafted free agents, but just plays with a lot of instincts, great ball skills, good tackling ability, seems like. So I don't know if Rodgers or Reed can push for the 53 while they are dealing with injuries. But it's I think a good sign that for the practice squad that these guys have been able to make a lot of plays, in the preseason so far.
Yeah, Bridges, I only saw him once, and unfortunately it wasn't a great spot to note Bridges on, but it's starting to feel like it is Reed's spot over Bridges. Rodgers is now TBD depending on the injury. We have no idea. People are asking in the chat. I have no idea. We just jumped on here right after the game. So we'll get some sort of update. Didn't look good. Also, Dean Leonard did go down today as well. Had to be helped off by trainers. So yeah, these guys need to step up. Thankfully that they did. Praying for the best, praying for that they are healthy enough, because otherwise it's the DBs that have been hurt this entire time, who haven't been playing so hot, but they're available, so they'll make it, versus the guys that are actually like playing better right now. So hopefully they get some good news on that front.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Jasir Taylor's like the only healthy corner right now. That's like, I guess Trackers Bridges as well. But Dante Jackson is dealing with an injury. Tariq Still just came back from an injury and had an awesome tackle. That was incredible. Cam Hart is dealing with an injury. Dean Leonard gets injured today. Nico Reed dealing with an injury heading into today. Now Eric Rogers. Like it's to the point where Jasir Taylor had to come back into the game in the fourth quarter with like the fifth string defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some moves there just to get some healthy bodies. And, we saw Carson Barnhart get injured today on the offensive line. Those two rooms are just really, really banged up. And I think, the Chargers had to cancel joint practice this week with the Rams.
Yeah.
Because they're like so banged up. And I don't know, man, like the Chargers need some like extra time in the cold tub or some R&R. I don't really know. But Eric Rogers, it just sucks that he ended today with an injury after playing so well.
Yeah. So where do you think that end of roster depth chart is, assuming everyone's kind of where they are after today? So Benjamin St. Juste did play today. It's like, I didn't even know who he was for a second there because it had been so long. So still Jackson, they're making it obviously. I don't even know what to do after that, to be completely honest. But the order, I would think, if you include Jasir Taylor, so I guess we can include him.
Yeah.
Jaw's making it. Then after that, Dean Reed. I mean, I don't know how you support this.
Yeah, we have to see about these injuries too. Like it just, if Dean Leonard is dealing with a shoulder injury, Nico Reed should be back. Like he's not dealing with anything like super long term, as far as I understand. Dean was not able to come back into the game. We'll see about Eric Rogers. I don't know if he did enough today to get, back into, 53 conversation. But I think we have 5 that I think feel good about in terms of the 53, which are, the starting trio, Dante Jackson, Tariq Still, who have kind of distanced themselves as the main 2, then Cam Hart, then Benjamin St. Juste, Jasir Taylor as the backup slot, special teams, things like that. And then we're kind of back to that debate of, do you keep a 6th corner? Do you keep the 5th safety? Because RJ Mickens has looked really good in his preseason action. Tony Jefferson remains, preseason king. Or do you keep 5 safeties, 6 corners? Like it's just going to be a bit of a roster construction issue for them. If I had to pick a 6 right now, I would probably go Nico Reed, just because he has been more consistent in camp than Dean Leonard. He obviously had a very good Hall of Fame game. So that's where I would lean. And then maybe Dean Leonard, you can sneak him back to the practice squad. I don't really know if that's going to case. I don't know where his injury is at. But yeah, I think Nico Reed would be my 6th corner on the 53 if I had to say right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And yes, I did forget Cam Hart. Sorry.
Yeah. It's understandable. I mean, he's injured right now, so the whole room is injured, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh well. I was trying to think of more of the back end of the roster, and Cam Hart's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break. Our YouTube audience is going to be right back after this, and we'll get into some of the quarterback conversation. All right. So again, Chargers 27 points. They scored on the very last drive with Rocket Sanders and DJ Uiagalelei, who had like an absolute moonball to Dalevon Campbell. Whoops, my bad. ESPN there jumping in. So Taylor Heineke goes 1 for 5, 8 yards, takes a sack, almost takes a safety, passer rating of 39.6. It just felt like there was no rhythm there. Trey Lance had a great day rushing, 7 carries, 48 yards, 1 touchdown. 7 pass attempts, 7 completions on 14 pass attempts, 55 passing yards, 3.9 yards per attempt, which is not great. 2 sacks, 60 passer rating. This was not a great day for the offense as a whole. Do you think there should be any big takeaways from Heineke versus Lance as we kind of head to, the closing of the quarterback competition?
I think the big takeaway, depending on where you've been on this battle, but I think now that we've seen Heineke out there and what it looked like, and while it's not completely 100% his fault, I think Trey Lance has shut the door on the QB2 competition. Now, do the Chargers feel differently in the end because he's, one's more of a veteran, one's not? I don't know. But the way things are going, I really do think that Trey Lance should be the QB2. I don't think Trey Lance's play overall like solidified him necessarily. Now, him being able to run when the offensive line can't block, and I do want to talk about the offensive line later.
Yeah,
that's obviously a bonus. As a passer, I didn't like love most of what was out there, especially early on. Just was not making quicker decisions, you know, like waiting a long time to throw to Gadsden, then throwing to his knees. Trey Harris is open in the end zone. He's waiting, and then he throws it. By that time, the DB's already there, and there's nothing you can do. So just like some waiting. I was kind of hoping. Then occasionally he would just like tuck and run way too fast, take a sack, you know, bail out, whatever. So it wasn't like a great game from him, but he did enough, and I think he did improve as the game ended up going on when some of the backups were out there. What really did slam this shut was Heineke's performance, unfortunately. Like Heineke was more Heineken tonight, and it just wasn't like a great performance by him.
Nice.
Again, offensive line couldn't block. Keandre Lambert-Smith dropped his best pass of the night. Great pass, dropped it. Bullet pass, could have been a whole continued drive for a touchdown. Nothing. So there's other things there too. But then he missed 3, 4, 5 other times. Again, you said he went 1 for 5. It was not pretty. It was not a good day for him overall. And now I understand why Trey Lance has been taking more snaps over him in camp.
Yeah, I mean the leading pass catcher today outside of Dalevon Campbell was 15 yards for Rondé Gadsden. So it was just a rough day passing the football.
Yeah.
And obviously Dalevon Campbell I think deserves a lot of credit there in terms of his ability there. So I think the offensive line was an issue. Live passing, live data from PFF has the Chargers at 9 pressures allowed, which is not like a ton considering how much they were passing the football today, but it feels like that number is going to increase quite a bit once they have a chance to review things. So the offense with Heineke just felt really disjointed. It felt like they were like forcing things, and I understand why they brought out, like Tyler Conklin was getting some reps, and the first team, offensive line, some members of it were out there. Sawyer was at left tackle, Zion, etc. It just didn't look like they were able to get into a rhythm. And I think if you're Taylor Heineke, like he's a little bit more mobile, but he's obviously not Trey Lance mobile.
Right.
If you're Heineke, your selling point is that you know the offense, you're a veteran, you're able to, be in rhythm, you're able to read through your progressions. And Trey Lance, with how he's improving in that regard, plus his scrambling ability, plus his ability to kind of be a weapon in the run game, I just think that we're trending towards this being a situation where, they're calling around to see if Heineke can merit, return a 7th round pick for them or cut Heineke. Maybe you cut Heineke and keep him on the practice squad kind of thing. But I just think that Trey Lance, even if he didn't look great as a passer today, I think he showed more of his value because of his legs, because he can scramble.
Yep.
And some of his passes were, at least on target. I think my concern with him is that PFF right now has his average time to throw is 3.5 seconds, whereas last week it was 3 seconds. So 3.5 seconds, that's just that's too long. Like you got to get the ball out quicker than that. So I felt like after last game that we were really trending towards Trey Lance being QB2 after seeing Heineke just not get into a rhythm. I think not by default, but by default, Trey Lance is QB2 right now.
Yeah, Heineke, if he can't get into a rhythm, that's his not whole quarterback situation. Like you said, he can run. I saw him do that once in the Steelers game, and he was decent at that one time.
Yeah, he was the leading rusher in the Chiefs game, I think, that one time.
Yeah, something like that. That was neat. Less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
But in structure, okay, maybe, but out of structure was not good. Trey Lance can at least play out of structure a bit more. So if everything's crumbling around you, Trey Lance gives you somewhat of a better shot. But I definitely want to see him take a few more steps forward. And heck, I want to see Taylor Heineke play well as well, because as much as I think Lance is now QB2, Heineke needs to play well for them to get any value out of him. Because if that's what the national stage saw. We can talk about practice all you want. That's what everybody saw on actual film on Taylor Heineke. And you're not really trading a pick for Taylor Heineke based on that.
Yeah, in the best case scenario for the Chargers, right? Heineke, we'll see if he plays next week. I don't really know. I was kind of surprised he played at all today to begin with. If Heineke plays again next week, I think we want to see him play well, because that either strengthens his case to be on the roster, or it strengthens his ability to be, a trade asset. And there are a lot of teams around the league that are probably in need of some kind of veteran backup. And frankly, like the Saints, who the Chargers played today, like, I don't know, man. They have 2 young rookie quarterbacks, essentially. Like, I think they could use a veteran in that room. The Lions, who they played last week, I wasn't crazy about the way their backup quarterbacks played. So Heineke, I still think could have some value for them. Is it going to be, I tweeted this out during the week and people were like, oh, they should just cut him. And I'm like, well, I think they could get like a 7th round pick from somebody. Kevin says, pointing out the Jets have Tyrod Taylor as their backup quarterback for what it's worth. So they're fine. But I do think like we probably should let Taylor Heineke play a little bit next week and hopefully that he can improve his stock a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so too. The first drive, the miss to Conklin, I think.
Yeah, missed high, yeah.
Other than that, like it was mostly fine. And again, like if Keandre Lambert-Smith catches that pass, maybe they keep going. Different story. And then after that, it was, backed up into your end zone, and Andre James can't block because he's playing guard. We'll talk about that later. So it just like that didn't really help him either. So I do want to see 3 more drives next week that hopefully just start from, the 25 or the 30 or something. And are maybe more of an actual drive than what he got today.
So I'm just seeing if there's any updates. So Alex is doing press conference duty. Says Eric Rodgers is getting checked out right now. Obviously no specific, updates there, but that's potentially, I don't think it was broken because he was able to put like some weight on it. But if there's any ligament damage, they would obviously need an MRI for that. Let's see. Yeah, that's it so far in terms of like health updates.
Yeah, probably won't get much. So Harbaugh won't disclose much. We'll see. We'll know when there's a signing or tryouts.
Yeah, for sure. I think we did get a good amount of movement on the running back competition updates. The rotation was interesting to me. In the first half, it was mostly Vidal and Naheem Miller-Hines, excuse me. In the second half, it was mostly Raheem Sanders and Hassan Haskins. So Rocket Sanders ends up leading the team in rushing, leading the running backs in rushing, I should say. 10 carries, 42 yards, 1 touchdown at the end. Haskins, 6 carries, 33 yards. Vidal, 6 for 16. Obviously, the one big loss where Kaltenberger, who has massive potential upside, just got wrecked, and Vidal got swallowed up by, was it Brzee? I think it was. And then Miller-Hines, 4 carries, 10 yards. So there was a lot of explosive runs from the Chargers running back room today. What did you make of how those 4 players performed? Has somebody kind of like started to edge out for you, or we still think a couple weeks away from really seeing who's going to secure those 2 final spots?
It's going to be a few more weeks. The good news is that I think everybody in different rights and different ways played very well. The problem is that I really don't know what to make of this group. Now, if I had to guess, it's still Vidal's, like based on the reps, based on what he's doing in practice. I think it's Vidal's, RB4 spot. The question is just like, what else is there? Or I guess RB3 spot, depending on how you're looking at this. Sanders clearly separated himself today, after missing almost the majority of the entirety of training camp. He looked great. Like he looked fantastic as a runner. Good adjustment on the route, or not the route, but it was a route, but it wasn't much of a route. Good adjustment though on the catch from Lance, and just he looked great. But then you have, Hines Miller. It is Hines Miller. No, Miller-Hines. Excuse me.
Miller-Hines. Yeah.
Miller-Hines.
It confuses me too because it was Hines forever. Right. Usually when a player adds a second last name, it's like it would be the other last name, but it is Miller-Hines. Yeah.
Yeah. So Miller-Hines, the 2 muff punts are unfortunately like that's not going to get you on the roster. Not that really affects him as a running back necessarily, but it affects him in the roster bubble part. But he looked great in pass protection. I mean, like genuinely some great reps in pass pro where, I wish he was maybe a bit more aggressive and threw a guy to the ground, but he did his part there. He's always been like a shiftier receiving back option. He's put up, some years with like 400 or 500 receiving yards for the Colts. So like he has that. Haskins is never like flashy, but it's the second week in a row I think he's been over 5 yards per carry. He just he runs hard there. So it's really tough to sort this group out, to be completely honest. And Hampton did not play, so I'm assuming like they're pretty good with him. Najee Harris's eye injury. That doesn't look anywhere close, and now Jim Harbaugh's not sure he'll be ready for week 1. So Hampton, like, put him on ice, like, fine. We'll figure it out in Brazil, I guess. But this running back room it's a heck of a competition. I really don't know, because no one's had the 100-yard game. No one's had the 75-yard game. It's just been very solid contributions from all the running backs. So I don't have like today my standout was Sanders, but I really couldn't tell you who's going to be like RB4, RB5. Like how would that sort out?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the pass protection from Naeem Miller-Hines. I mean, he vaulted a linebacker like into the air, and then the second one where he goes from left side of the offense to the opposite side to allow Trey Lance to scramble for the touchdown. Like, that was both of those pass protection reps were incredible. He did get a little lit up later in the game on a pass protection rep. It happens. The muffs on the punts it was just so unfortunate, because I think, like, if you can carve out that role as a pass catcher, pass protector, he showed some juice, on that one first down carry he had as well. So he looks healthy, which is great. Feel very happy for him. I think at minimum, I'm okay keeping him around on the practice squad, just because he is somebody who can, step in and return stuff on occasion. Obviously, hoping the punt return issues can kind of go away. And then there's some juice in there as a pass catcher, as a ball carrier. Like, there's a good role here potentially for him as a practice squad runner. If Najee stays on the NFI list, then their decision, I think, is pretty easy. Then I think you could keep Haskins, Vidal, and Sanders on that 53, and then figure it out 4 weeks down the road, or whenever Najee is ready to go, assuming he can get ready to go, which is a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best ball carrier of that trio has been Sanders. I think just like the way that he runs is just a little bit different, because he kind of combines the speed of Vidal and the physicality of Haskins. So I think, and that reception was nice. So I'm very interested in Rocket Sanders. I don't want to give up on Kamani Vidal, and Hassan Haskins I think is going to make it because of special team stuff. But if Sanders can follow this up and have another good game next week, I think he's inching closer to potentially sealing the deal over Kamani Vidal right now. Yeah.
I mean, so you actually think there's a genuine shot that Vidal doesn't make it over a Sanders or a Haskins? I guess so. It's Najee if he's there, then Hampton, and then you're saying Haskins, or?
I mean, Haskins is RB4, but I think he's going to make the roster because of his special teams role.
So he's like safer.
Yeah. So I think that really it's like the competition for RB3 is Vidal and Sanders, and I guess Miller-Hines as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to see more from Sanders, but he had 2 good practices this week, according to Daniel Popper and his writing. He had a really good performance today. I think, like, just physically, like, he probably is a little bit closer to what this regime usually prefers than Kamani is. I know they drafted Kamani, but Kamani's like 5'8", 5'9", and Rocket's 5'11", 220. So, like, there is a chance that I think they just decide, especially if Najee is going to miss time, that they want like another bigger back to complement Hampton. So I think there's a chance, but I do need to see more from Sanders for sure.
Yeah. So I still think Vidal is safe enough considering how they've been using him, like in terms of using him, playing him in practice. But I find him the least interesting of the group.
Yeah, from everything that the reporters have been saying, Vidal is still like the third down back in practice. He's still the pass catcher. He's still the pass protector, which makes sense that he's kind of your change up to Omarion.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if Najee is on the NFI list, do you want a Najee clone? Because that's Sanders. Sanders is closer to that than Vidal is. So I don't know. If he is on the NFI list, they don't really have to make the decision. I think they can run the 4.
Yeah.
Miller-Hines on the practice squad and then figure it out whenever he gets ready. But I do think Sanders is trending very positive, I would say.
Oh, definitely. That has really surprised me.
Another player who has definitely been trending positive is rookie 3rd-round pick Jamaree Caldwell, the 3rd-round defensive tackle. I think somebody we highlighted after the film watch from the Hall of Fame game. Today, he chases down Spencer Rattler in the end zone, forcing a 4th down stop. He gets a sack on, was that Shuck or was that Rattler?
Ooh.
I think it was Shuck.
I think it was Shuck. It was definitely like later on.
He had a couple other, nice run defense reps from what I saw on tape. So we've been kind of waiting for Jamaree to pop, and I think he definitely started to pop today live. I think he's okay for people wondering, because he did get looked at by the trainers. He never went into the locker room, never went into the blue tent. He just kind of got looked at, and then I think they were like, "Oh, you're probably good for today." Yeah. So what do you make of Jamaree and how he's now fitting into this defensive tackle room?
I'm very happy. I was very concerned heading into the first preseason game because he couldn't even crack the second team rotation. He was the 5th or 6th or 7th guy, which is maybe slightly understandable. And maybe there's some learning to play, of course, and playing weight and cardio, whatever. I don't know. But he wasn't out there very much. And so what is it going to look like when the pads come on, when you're playing guys across from you, you can actually go hit them? He's looked great. He's looked awesome. He looked awesome last week. I would argue this week was more flashes from him. The sack was, a bit more of a coverage sack. I'm sure the coverage was fantastic, but he still has shown, and as he showed in college, ton of heart, ton of motor, which is so impressive for a guy that's 320, 330 or whatever he is right now. So if he continues to be stout against the run, which he was, and he continues to be high motor against the pass, which he is, then I think he's going to find himself active on game day and playing quite a bit. And, won't be a true starter for them and won't even be the 3rd guy maybe. But for a 3rd-round pick, I think it's a really good start to his NFL career.
Yeah, I'm very happy with where he's at right now. I do think, he's probably on the heavier side for where he wants to be and where the team wants him to be. But right now it's not really mattering. I mean, he can chase down quarterbacks running to the sideline. I don't really think that's that big of an issue. So, he's defending the run. He's, adding value as the pass rusher occasionally. So I think he's having, a really good preseason so far. There was when they first started training camp and, their first day of pads, he wasn't even rotating in on the second team defense at all. I think he's starting to kind of earn the coach's trust a little bit more, earning those reps. And I think that's just is so important as we, head towards, again, the 53, making decisions, figuring out who the role is, and et cetera. I thought in general today, the interior defensive line looked really good.
Yeah,
this was probably Scott Madlock's best game as a defensive tackle. He had a pressure. He was the key piece in forcing the stop with Troy Dye. Naquan Jones had a couple of good reps. Deshaun Hand had a couple of pressures early. Obviously hit Spencer Rattler, forced an incomplete pass. So this was a good interior defensive line game. And I know the Saints weren't playing their main guys, but Cesar Ruiz was out there for a little bit, and Trevor Penning, who's apparently going to be their starting left guard, was out there. So this interior defensive line group, it was a little bit up and down last week. I think they played a little bit better today. Tyrod Edwards also had a couple good reps in there. So yeah, I'm very happy with how the interior defensive line played today. Yeah,
the defensive line as a whole, I think, not that I called them out and they responded, but I did call them out, and also the defense, played well. The defensive line, I wasn't as sure in our live reaction. Now after rewatch, Caldwell popped more for sure. But watching it, we were both disappointed with the edge rushers in particular. To have Murphy come out today and do what he did, Caldwell, the rest of the interior guys, I think just so many different guys popped. And that was really nice to see. Again, really just across the board. I know we don't have a Jesse Minter segment specifically here, but I just I can't emphasize and be happy enough. Jesse Minter, Klingscale, Elston, Bowman, you name it. These guys are just, from the first guy that's on the field to the back end guy on the roster to the guy who signed 2 days ago, everybody is dialed in with the fundamentals. I mean, Eric Rodgers with the pick 6 looks exactly like Nico Reed's last week, which looked exactly like Tarheeb Still's last year. Everything just looks so drilled. The fundamentals, not only was it great to see because it looked so good, the defense was so great, we have such a stark contrast to the offense, which couldn't figure out how to catch a ball, snap, block, nothing. Unless you were scrambling or it was a running back making stuff up after contact, they couldn't figure out anything. And you go to the defense, and we can go sit here and just name 10 more names on defense who stood out to you, who made plays today. Caldwell, Edwards, the defensive line, as you mentioned, just excellent stuff by Jesse Minter.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things we talked about last year was just like how locked in and dialed in, even the third stringers looked. And now we're seeing back-to-back weeks an undrafted free agent gets multiple, opportunities on the football. So it just looks so clean. Like you're confusing. One of these two quarterbacks is going to start 17 games for the Saints, and they couldn't figure out how to go through their progressions against the Chargers' second and third string defenses. So it just shows a lot about how this thing is being coached, and how Steve Klingscale, Jesse Minter, Navarro Bowman, Mike Elston, these guys are coaching, and just really is so consistent. Like there's just, I know it's preseason and I don't want to put like too much onto the preseason, but there's just more guys making plays in the preseason than we are used to seeing. I think like usually when we're watching these preseason games, it's kind of just like who makes fewer mistakes, not making plays. And, the players who were drafted make plays. But now like we're seeing these undrafted free agents, these veterans who they just signed coming in making plays. I think it just shows that the Chargers defense is in a really, really good spot from a schematic standpoint, coaching standpoint, culture standpoint. You mentioned that you turned the game off a little bit, but did you see the Deion Henley like interview thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. He's like, it's legal. Oh well, and he's running out there. Yeah,
I know. I love that, but like it's a little thing. It's Deion, like that's his natural personality, but it just shows how connected these guys are. I mean, the sideline like absolutely just erupted when Eric Rodgers gets his pick six. So I just love seeing things like that. These are little things that show how much of a culture Jesse Minter and that side of things have built on the defense.
Yeah, they are so connected. They understand things. I don't know. It's like being in a class you just love being in, so you pay attention and you do better, but you're supported and everything makes sense. And everyone's like, oh, this is nice. I like going to school. And these guys, for their jobs and what they have to learn, what they have to do, it seems like they completely enjoy themselves. It's easy for them. We can give them a pass when it's Justin Jefferson later on this year. Like, Godspeed and good luck to that one. But like these guys play hard, they play together, they play connected. I love it. The character of the Harbaugh and Ortiz picks meets great coaching from Minter, and it just makes a perfect circumstance.
Yeah, and obviously it's not perfect. I know, as Kevin points out, Justin Eboigbe is not really contributing a whole lot, but you don't hit home runs every single time.
Yeah.
Nobody's
going to be doing what they have is pretty solid.
Yeah. Okay, before we finish, our audio audience is going to take one more break as we look to pay some bills, and then our YouTube audience is going to continue right along here. All right, Tyler, you wanted to bring up Marlowe Wax, the undrafted free agent linebacker. He is somebody you watched before training camp. I know
yes, that. I did it.
I didn't watch any of them. I have a hard time remembering like who you did watch and who you didn't watch, but you did watch Marlowe Wax. He's played the whole game today, essentially. Second on the team in tackles with 9, had a sack. I think he had a pass breakup. I think ESPN.
He at least had a tackle for loss.
He had a tackle for loss. So what did you make of him today? What do you make of his chances of making an impact this season? Where are you at with Mr. Marlowe Wax?
I'd have to look at where Phillips is at in terms of Delshon Phillips and where he's at with his health. And because I don't think he suited up today, but I don't know if
he is still on the PUP list.
Oh, still on the PUP list. That's right. So I think there's a mild chance that Marlowe Wax, if he continues to play the way that he does end up taking that spot. So we'll see. That's more of a health thing. I think if Phillips is healthy, he's the guy. He will be the guy. He played like the third most special team snaps of anybody in the NFL last year. So they're going to keep him around for that specific reason. But I am liking what I'm seeing from Marlowe Wax. And unfortunately, it looks better than what Junior Colson gave us last week as the guy who played almost the entirety of the game. At least statistically, that's the case. 9 tackles, 9 of them solo, sack, sort of, but it was a sack, and a tackle for loss today. And I just think in general, there were at least 2, 3, 4 plays that looked like a guy who was reading and reacting and just saw things better than Colson. Now, we only saw the one game from Colson. Colson didn't play today. Who knows what it would have looked like? But if I'm going that linebacker from that game And this linebacker from this game, I think the linebacker that played today in Marlowe Wax just looked better. Junior Colson is not in danger at all of losing his roster spot, but they're playing Troy Dye over him. They're playing Perryman over him. I think they'd probably still play Colson over Wax, but right now Wax had the better game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We talked about, after the film watch, it just seemed like Colson was not trusting himself. He did suit up today. He did not practice all week. I was told before the game that he was available in an emergency. So, like, if Marlowe Wax or Mauga had gotten injured, they could have potentially brought him in. That did not happen. So they just let Marlowe Wax play the whole game, and I think he played really well. I've been impressed with he's kind of like Denzel Perryman 2.0 in the sense of, like, he's just not afraid to go and just hit somebody. Like, he'll go take on a pulling guard, he'll go take a fullback, a tight end, and he'll just go hit them. So I do think there is a place, obviously, for him, maybe on the practice squad, kind of worst case scenario here.
Yeah.
He hasn't made like a ton of special teams tackles or anything like that. So I don't really know where he stands there. But I've been impressed with his run defense at minimum. And today he had another tackle for loss. The sack was more so, again, created by Tremont Morris-Brash, I believe, is the one that they're crediting him for. But he's popping on tape. He's popping on the stat sheet, and he deserves a lot of credit for how he's playing. I love his play style. Like, it looks just like the rest of the other linebackers are taught to play. So he's physical, he's fast. I really like him.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up his 10-yard split here. Yeah, he's a 99th percentile 10-yard split. So when he goes and he reads, he's flying. Like, he is absolutely flying.
That checks out.
Definitely checks out, which definitely helps him. He's not a super athletic guy overall. Slightly undersized. A lot of Nico Reed undersized. Eric Rogers tall, but not like a big corner, like a heavier corner. Same thing, Marlowe Wax, UDFAs, right? Typical UDFAs, not exactly specimens, right?
Right.
But that 99th percentile 10-yard split is going to help him, and it has so far.
Yeah. Very, very happy with where he's at. We'll see. Again, Delshon Phillips and his health is like the key thing. We don't know. Like,
right.
I don't think Ryan Ficken would have signed. Ryan Ficken didn't sign him, right? But I don't think the Chargers would have signed him without Ryan Ficken, like, and his input. Mm-hmm. So we'll see, just from a special team standpoint. But like, this feels like a player who could be like this year's Shaq Quarterman, where he doesn't make the 53, but he's going to play like the first 4 games again while your fifth linebacker situation gets sorted out. So credit to Marlowe Wax for his strong start to the preseason.
Definitely. So he's an easy roster add if Phillips can't come back. If not, he's an easy practice squad add.
Another player who deserves a big shout out for today, and I think the Hall of Fame game, is Mr. Kendall Williamson, the safety. He wears number 40 for those who have a hard time keeping track of these things. I think he's really popped in both games as a tackler. He's had multiple special teams tackles on punt, on kickoff, and credit to Daniel Popper for being kind of the first one here to bring up Kendall Williamson in his special teams role. But not even just that, like, they're using him as a deep free safety on occasions. They're using him as, a box safety, and he's able to come up and run support, make good tackles. He looks like somebody that this team can rely upon as like your safety 6. Obviously, it's very difficult to have 6 safeties on the roster.
Sure.
But I think he is somebody who, in a pinch could be elevated, play special teams, things like that. I think he has had a very good offseason. Again, similar to Caleb Murphy, somebody who the Chargers signed midseason last year, bring back on a futures contract. And it's just like, we kind of forget about him because the Chargers have 5 safeties who we feel really good about. And Kendall Williamson just has had a very good camp. He's had a very good preseason so far. Again, not projecting him to the 53 by any means, but he's definitely somebody that I want back on the practice squad. He's somebody that I'm sure Ryan Ficken would want back on the practice squad. Didn't make any super flashy plays today, but just looks really, really solid, really trustworthy, and had a good performance today.
Yeah, should something happen in the DB room where you're going to need another gunner or something, or if somebody's hurt, or if John Taylor and let's say Dean Leonard doesn't make the roster and John Taylor is playing a ton on defense for God knows why, and you need somebody, you have to elevate somebody, I think you feel comfortable with Kendall Williamson playing a special teams role for you in a pinch. He's earned it. Like, it's tough, like you said. Like he does not feel like a guy who's going to make the 53. I have a hard time figuring out where that would even be right now, even with a couple of injuries. But if he has to be elevated for a game and maybe it's just a pure special teams role, I feel good about it.
Yeah, I agree there. Okay, did you have anybody else that you wanted to shout out today?
I only because he does it so often as Dalevon Campbell, the wide receiver, obviously the recipient of the one pass that DJ threw. Much better as a number 7 than number 13, apparently. I think just stick with that. But is he someone who's going to make the roster? No, but he's kind of like the Jalen Johnson from last year, what we thought Jalen Johnson was going to be this year, as someone who'd push things in the depth chart, maybe. But I don't know what his route running really is, but every other day in camp, he's had some drops and they've been not so great, like several drops I've seen, or at least have read about, but he also makes a ton of plays down the field. And today in a game, he made a plays down the field. So is he going to make the roster? No, I don't think he's making the roster. Where are we on the practice squad? That's probably Rager's spot at this point. But if they keep 2, perhaps go that route, just somebody else that has a good rapport with the backup quarterbacks, with the second team, scout team, whatever, and is someone who can catch the ball down the field.
I'm trying to find how many receivers they kept on the practice squad last year.
It was Dez, and
I want to say there were 3 receivers because Jalen Johnson was on the practice squad all year.
Yeah, Dez they signed eventually, and then Rager was supposed to be, but then they had injuries, so he was playing a lot more. So I think at any one point, maybe like 3, but I don't recall how often they carried 3. Oh, wait, no, not Rice.
Jalen Gill was not on the practice squad, right?
I don't think so.
They didn't. Yeah, he didn't make it. So it would have been Jalen Johnson and then like a rotating cast of for second and third, maybe.
Yeah, whenever Dez got there, he stuck the whole time. But
yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. So they'll have an extra practice squad spot for Thomas Yasmin if they want to keep him around. I think he played like the last few. I think he played the last drive. I don't think he played that much. But Dalevon Campbell is absolutely somebody I think should be leading that conversation. I'm not opposed to keep Brendan Rice on the practice squad. I think you definitely keep Jalen Rager on the practice squad just because he's that veteran presence that they've been pretty happy with. And before the injury in San Diego, he was having a great camp. So I think if you want to keep 2, I'm probably Campbell and Rager, but I wouldn't hate it if they kept 3, depending on how many other players they want to keep at those spots.
Yeah. Rager's a practice squad lock now. Amazing how things have changed.
Yeah. But, is what it is. Last one for me, Mr. Tremont Morris-Brash, I think deserves a shout out for today. Actually had a pass rush win rate of 16% in the Hall of Fame game. Had multiple pressures today. I think had some really solid moments as a run defender today. There was that 1st and goal on the goal line stand where he just strung out the tight end all the way. And then Mickens came in and made the tackle, and Morris-Brash was able to kind of finish it. He wasn't able. I thought he had 2 chances at a sack today, and he wasn't able to get either one. But I think that he's shown some good growth as a pass rusher. Last year was like his spin move was the only way that he could win, and now there are other ways that he can win while also having the spin move, and his run defense has gotten a little bit better. Again, I don't think he can make the 53. But I think he can at least come back on the practice squad and just continue to develop and put time into his growth, because I think that he is showing those signs of what you want as an undrafted free agent. Maybe next year's kind of his make or break year, and maybe next year you kind of see where he's at. But I think he has earned a right to be back on the practice squad again. Yeah,
I love the physicality he's been playing with. Last week he's got that play where he pops either like the running back out of the flat or whoever it was. And of course, makes that sack this week, as you said, like maintaining the line of scrimmage all the way down. Like you said, I wish he did have like that play. I think we're still waiting for like that play, like Caleb Murphy has had. But no, he's looked pretty solid. I think I'm glad you shouted him out here.
Yeah. So a lot of younger guys who are earning their rights on the practice squad, whereas last year we're just kind of like trying to figure out who's making it. I think some of these players have really, flashed, make some plays, had good moments, and that's obviously a good showing for the Chargers' depth and where they're at.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right, Tyler, do you have any other final thoughts before we get into some of these super chats?
Oh, let's jump in.
Victor Aliri banned for life if this is a real comment. Like
maybe in the preseason?
Not. Yeah. Like I need to know how serious this comment is right now before I decide to ban you or not.
I know, and it's gonna start the whole narrative. I think he is joking. And Victor's been here plenty of times, and maybe he is joking. But
I just need to know because people say things sometimes, and it's
now that okay. I'll bring that one back up. That narrative is going to be pushed. Any one particular loss that Herbert suddenly has, where he throws an interception in the fourth quarter, that happens. All the ding dongs are going to be out there like Trey Lance is like Colin Kaepernick. So that will come up at some point. It's going to suck, but it will come up. But no, today Trey Lance can run. That's cool. It is a completely different animal when Herbert's out there throwing the football. Please don't. No.
Yeah. I think he was joking. So I think we're okay. He says he did the laughing emoji. He says preseason all 4 quarters. So I think we're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind that.
Him playing all the preseason, I'm okay with it. Like as much as the Chargers seem to have like a structure, but I do think that Trey needs more reps, and I would not be opposed to seeing him just play the whole game for the next 2.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing. We're not getting anything out of DJU for the 2 drives that he's in. Like just let Lance finish the game.
Yeah. Yeah. If they do keep the 2 quarterbacks, I would imagine they keep DJ on the practice squad for what it's worth.
Yep.
Yeah. Alex Insdorf kicking us off with a super chat early this afternoon before we even went live. He said, "What school did Eric Rodgers go to?" Good day for Rutgers, as the clip from Bill Belichick once says. Kyle Monangai had a really good showing in the Bears game today. Eric Rodgers in the Chargers game today. So good day for Rutgers.
Congratulations, Rutgers. You're one of the teams in our conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Cody Spencer, wishful thinking, but maybe with the Slater injury, they go all in on defense and trade for Parsons. Does that make up for the loss?
I definitely think there is a world by the deadline where they go, look, we kind of are at our limit. No one else is available for us to really upgrade on offense. No one's trading their premium offensive tackle or guard in the middle of the season. That's just not happening. Yeah. Unlikely to happen with the receiver. Usually it doesn't happen with tight end. Running back, they're set. I think you just kind of have like your offense is what they have right now, barring a signing. Defense, you can maybe find somebody. Is it Parsons? I don't know. But I think at some point, if they're like, look, we are a top 15 offense. Let's just be the best defense we can and go. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, maybe not Parsons, but I could definitely see that. So I went back and I've looked at this a couple of times, but I went back again and looked at how many offensive tackles have been traded in between the start of training camp and the deadline. And that in the last 5 years, that list is 7 names long. And the only player in that group that has been traded that was like a starting caliber player was Cam Robinson last year. Mm-hmm. So the Jaguars were like tanking already, and the Vikings were just completely desperate for any kind of functional left tackle play. Outside of that, it was a lot of backups, and specifically like backups going to and from the Patriots. So I don't know what was going on there.
That's right.
But the position that is most commonly available at the trade deadline is actually edge rusher. Like you can convince teams to give you an edge rusher pretty, left and right here. So the list that I looked at in the last 5 years, I want to say it was like 32 edge rushers, and then 27 receivers had been traded. And then corner was next after that. It was like 23 or 24 or something like that. But it is very possible to get an edge rusher at the deadline. And if they are, just feel like they need that extra bit of juice off the, as the 4th edge rusher spot, I think they can definitely go make that. Obviously, Micah Parsons would be your edge 1. But as we've said, I don't buy how much he's going to be traded. But could you go get this year's version of like Zadarius Smith, yeah, you could definitely. I mean, you could get Zadarius
You could
Smith
sign him
himself, but but if you wanted to go get, like David Ojabo from the Ravens or something like that, I don't know if the Ravens would make that deal, but you can go find a fourth or third edge rusher on the trade deadline for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Daddy Don't Pull Out says Brandon Staley be like, haha, yeah, remember my 27 points as head coach, Jim? Haha, say if this is the New Orleans job doesn't work out, I could be your assistant head coach in DC. I don't know if you could find two more opposite football coaches than Jim Harbaugh and Brandon Staley, just like from a personality standpoint. But
yeah, no, I really don't. No, I mean, you can find some odd ones.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like Harbaugh versus like Josh McDaniels, maybe.
Sure.
So, but no, yeah. Hey, shout out Brandon Staley. The defense was, it gave the Chargers some fits today. Oh, was Landon Dickerson carted off?
Oh, yikes. Did that just happen?
Trade him left guard Andre James.
I don't want to do interior offensive line stuff today, but that really pissed me off. Yeah, he was carted off, unable to put any weight on his leg. That sucks.
Ooh,
that really sucks for them.
Yeah. Who's their right guard?
It's currently a battle between Kenyon Green and
Kenyon Green got hurt.
What's that guy from Alabama? Tyler Steen.
Okay, so I guess it's Steen then.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that
sucks. See what you got, Jalen Hurts. Let's take away 7 of your 24 All Pros and see what happens.
I was in a fantasy draft last night with my friends from work, and one of my coworkers ended up drafting Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, the Eagles defense, and Dallas Goedert.
Are they an Eagles fan?
No, he's actually a Cowboys fan. I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know. It just kind of like worked out where like every point I wanted to go to these positions, these were the players available, and I was like, okay, like whatever. But yeah, it's just funny to me. Like their team is still stacked. Like that sucks, and that's part of their identity, obviously. But
yeah,
they still have a great tackle duo, still have a good center. They'll be all right. They have best offensive line coach in the league, so they'll be all right.
They'll be okay.
Regarding Brandon Staley, like I think the Saints are gonna have a very long leash. Like I don't think they're going to be rushed into pressuring this coaching staff because their roster is in such bad shape. But they played like 85% of their starters today, guys. Like the only ones who didn't play today were like Cam Jordan, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed, and like every other starter played today. So like they're in rough shape from a roster perspective.
God, this is such a bad roster. This defensive group. I mean, there are some like previous standouts, but that's years ago. So Cam Jordan, Brian Brzee, Carl Granderson, Demario Davis, Pete Warner, Chase Young.
I forgot Davis. He did not play today. He's still there.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, Dustin Reed, Julian Blackmon, Alontae Taylor. This is the reverse Brandon Staley with the Chargers, where it's like, yeah, there's talent and whatever you want. That's a rough group, and 2 of them might retire next year. So like that's a rough group.
Yeah, I would pencil them in for like maybe 5 wins, maybe like at the most right now.
Yeah, that's a brutal group. I feel bad for Kellen Moore, but he took the job. So that's on him.
He could have stayed in Philly another year.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Alex Bridgeforth, next one in here, says the Bridgeforth boys, parentheses, Las Vegas, Kentucky, I assume. I don't know. Are watching live. We appreciate the Bridgeforth boys for jumping in here.
What's up, Bridgeforth boys? He told us all their names too before, but I forget. And they all start with something. They all start with a certain letter. Oh, there's another one.
I assume A. That's okay.
Maybe.
His question. So he sent in 2 super chats. Thank you for the super chats, Alex. He wants to know if Trey Harris is going to be active every game.
Probably. It'd be nice if they threw him the football, but no, not active. Or he will be active every game. It felt like they played less this time around than the first time.
Yeah.
But
were they out there on the touchdown drive?
Where Lance ran it in?
Yeah.
I think at that point
They were already out, right?
The receiver they threw to for the 2-point conversion after, was that play?
That was Campbell, I think.
Right. That would have been Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yeah.
And Trey Harris definitely did not drop a touchdown.
That was very clearly pass interference.
yeah. For one, it was pass interference. It would have been nice if they just threw it on time. It was just a shallow crosser, throw it, and then didn't throw it. Oh well.
I think Trey Harris will be active every game because they need his skill set. I'm very curious how they go about that, because having 6 active on game day every week, it is a little difficult, but they kind of need all 6. Like Darius Davis, you need for returner duties. Keandre Lambert-Smith is your speed threat, so you need him. Obviously Keenan, Mike, Ladd, Quentin, that's your starting trio as of this moment. So they're all active. And Trey Harris is your best contested catch guy. So you need him. So I don't know, man. I think you probably have to keep all 6, and you figure out, 8 offensive linemen on game days instead of 9, 3 tight ends instead of 4, maybe 5 defensive tackles instead of 6, etc. Because I just think you need all of those receivers active every single week.
Yep.
Anthony says, good job on the content, gentlemen. We appreciate that. Anthony sends comments in here every once in a while, so we always appreciate that. And then our last super chat, at least right now, Anthony Rhodes wants to know, what would we realistically give up for Micah Parsons?
I don't know. It will take more than 2 firsts. I'm not giving up 3 firsts. So you pick 2 firsts and some change.
It definitely starts at 2 firsts. I think we talked about this, but Adam Schefter brought up the Khalil Mack trade and then add the 2025 tax in. So I think what would I offer versus what does it realistically take to get done are very different conversations. Excuse me. I think it takes 2 firsts, a third, and a young player, or 2 thirds. I think this is a very pricey trade to actually get done. If I could offer 2 firsts and a 5th and that gets it done, great. I would be very happy about that. But it takes a lot. This is potentially, Myles Garrett, I think, holds the crown now for best player in the league on defense, but Micah is probably second, and he's probably the future number 1 on that list. So it's going to take a lot. This is not going to be a cheap trade.
Nope. So it's not happening.
Joseph says that we should throw in Ladd, or is saying that Ladd should be in on that's crazy.
I mean, that would be I think he means, I get what he's saying.
A player of Ladd's caliber.
Yeah. It will take an extreme offer to get Parsons from the Cowboys, I think. So if you're not willing to give up.
Oh, okay. He says Dallas will ask for one of our best players in return.
Yeah, so which I understand. This is, I don't know. Jerry Jones will just end up trading for a player and giving up draft capital, because why not?
Okay, my apologies, Joseph. He says he does not want to make the trade. I think you could probably talk the Cowboys into 2 firsts and 2 Lee and maybe a 5th. But yeah, it's going to cost a lot to potentially get Micah Parsons. All right. RJ Mickens. I wish RJ Mickens would be enough, but unfortunately that's just not the case.
Oh man.
But yeah. All right, you guys. That is going to do it for us today. If you're new to kind of our rotation on a normal schedule, on Tuesday we'll be back here with our film review of today's game. We'll have some standouts, unsung heroes, narratives of the week, etc. So I always really like to do that show. I know Tyler does as well. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from that, so should be a good one. And then we'll touch on, we'll circle back here on Thursday. The Chargers are out of training camp, so I don't know what practice reporting is going to be like going forward. They were scheduled to have a joint practice on Wednesday, that's no longer happening. So we'll kind of see what happens. We'll figure something out for Thursday, whether it's a pregame, preview or whatever, but we'll be here on Thursday. That is going to do it for this episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.